Roethke is always one of my favorite poets. I'm a Michigan boy. This was a Michigan poet. One time, several years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Ireland. And after a long, somewhat tedious trip, I arrived on this island off the west coast of Ireland. It's a very small island, somewhat out of the way. No electricity except in the pub where they had a generator. We had to have a final pint, so we went into the pub, and there on the wall was this plaque honoring Theodore Roethke. And I was amazed. I'm a Michigan boy. I'm halfway around the world, and here's a plaque honoring one of my favorite poets. And I remarked to the bartender, "Hey, Roethke, he's from Michigan and I'm from Michigan." And the bartender said, "Oh yeah, and he was here, he lived here, and he was a fine figure of a man."
More recently, poet and arts activist Al Hellus has organized the annual Rouse for Roethke. Every May, some 30 people gather to read the entire contents of the collected poems of Theodore Roethke, an event that takes about 6 hours.
Well, it was at this very park back in 1994 in a pavilion way over there by the river that we did the first Rouse for Roethke, which is a marathon reading of all of Roethke's poems. It was a bizarre idea I had that I got actually from hearing people do the marathon reading of Ulysses by James Joyce in New York, I believe. And they were doing that every year, I guess, or every other year, or whenever. Perhaps it was on an anniversary, Bloomsday. And I think it took, you know, days, I think, to actually get done with it. But anyway, I thought that would be an interesting kind of thing to adapt here in Saginaw for Roethke, who I sort of perceived at that time was not really getting much due in his hometown. So we came out here on a day much like this, with the leaves just coming out, only it was even warmer. And probably about 70 people, probably, I don't know, say maybe 30 people or so participated and read. It took 6 hours, as it still does. And so we did that for any number of years. We moved it from here because we didn't know how the weather was going to be. You never do from year to year. We moved it to Zinger's, which of course is where Roethke used to sometimes go to drink beer and to perhaps flirt with a waitress. And I've even heard rumors that he may have gotten kicked out from time to time. I can't imagine that. And so we moved it there, and it's pretty much been there ever since. And we'll be there this year, in the year 2000. So after, well, it would have been in 1998, so do the math, after 4 years, it would have been the 5th anniversary when we started. I had always had in the back of my mind the idea of actually expanding it to a 3-day festival, which in 1998 we did. Brought in Bill Hayen from New York as the featured reader. Combined a lot of elements, you know, the whole idea being that we could celebrate, you know, a dead poet, a dead poet from Saginaw, and also poets of stature currently writing, and also poets sort of the future, which represented by a student poetry slam and an adult poetry slam, again at Zinger's. And so we've done that now for the past 2 years. This will be the 3rd year. Tess Gallagher is coming in, a student of Roethke's the last semester before he died, and I'm sure it will be extraordinarily delicious, the entire thing. So there, that is the in the nutshell, that is the story of the Rouse and the Theodore Roethke Poetry Festival.
Roethke, as I said, was, you know, he was exclusive, and he made you feel the strictness of the endeavor, and there was a sense that not everyone can do this. You had to attain, and not everyone had equal talents. But he would do his best by you if you were in his presence. That was kind of the sense of Roethke. And there was a seriousness of enterprise. That is, when we were not writing whole poems, as mostly you won't be in the beginning, poems which are delivered fully, you do have little scraps of things, little blinking lights going on, life signs throughout the poem. And so he would try to find that pulse of the poem, the good line, the wonderful image, the metaphor, the sound. And he would say, look at this, look at this. And then he was wonderful for having exactly what he wanted. He seemed to know what he needed to teach. But Roethke, when he would find something good of yours, he would repeat it so that you heard it, and then it would remind him of something. He had his books all around this room. And so he would just turn, and he would go to the shelf, pick up that book, open it up, listen to this. And then sort of a chain of relationships would be set up. And it was really wonderful enacted before you there, because it said something to you without saying it. It said, there is a resonance in literature that goes back through, and literature is connected to other literature.
And at about that time, Roethke's collected poems came out, and I saw them in the Athens, Ohio bookstore. And his book on the poet and his craft came out from the University of Washington. And the book of essays on Roethke, edited by Arnold Stein, came out. And when I read the poems, I just felt, I guess, what we'd call a kindred spirit right away. The kind of nature spirit in whom I've always been interested. I really reverberated with what he was up to. At the time, some of his poems were beyond me, the wildly experimental poems in Praise to the End and The Lost Son. But the poems of his, the nature poems of his childhood, the greenhouse poems. And then later on, those magnificent poems of North American sequence especially, they're just part of my heart. So I'm glad to be here. I want to thank Al Hellus especially. A lot of people have worked hard to put this festival together, and I want to thank, he signs his letters, you know, the one they call, and then he signs Al, the one they call Al. So I want to thank Al especially.
In 1996, sculptor Pam Stump was asked to create a sculpture to honor the memory of Theodore Roethke. She agreed to make the sculpture to be added to the library at Saginaw Valley State University.